Okay, it's 2 o'clock. It's Monday, the 7th of December. Welcome to the remote cabinet meeting of the Vale Glamorgan. Can I start with apologies for absence? I think looking at the screen before me, there are none. Can I ask for any declarations of interest, if there are any, please? There are none. Good. That's easy. Okay, before I start, I usually make some comments about where we currently are in the pandemic, and I think it's right and proper I should do so again today, because I saw some figures today to show that, in fact, Wales is now the highest per 100,000 cases in the UK. I know there's been some criticism of the Welsh Government in making the recent changes they have. I have to say I will support them on the basis that if the figures are going through the roof, then we need to do something about it. So at least we can have some time together at Christmas. But even if we have some time together at Christmas, we still have to take all the precautions that are necessary. I was looking at the figures today, and I know they've gone up over the weekend again. We've had 68 new cases Friday, 52 on Saturday, and 57 on Sunday. I'm not sure what they are today, but the figures as of Friday we were well over 200. We were 220 cases per 100,000, which is the highest that we've ever been. So all I can say is please take care. Please don't mix unless you really have to. Keep within your household bubbles. Make sure you wear a mask. Make sure that you wash your hands regularly, and if you can't wash your hands, use gel as normal. Keep your 2 meters apart from anybody. Wear the mask, and please be careful, because if you catch it, then other people can catch it. And one thing you have to remember is that you can transmit this disease before you realize you have it. In some cases, a couple of days before symptoms appear, is after symptoms appear. So on that glum note, I will continue with this, but all I'm going to say to you is please be careful. Think of yourself, think of your family, think of the community, and let's see if we can have a really good Christmas. Okay, this is the last cabinet before Christmas, so no, it's not. There's one next week too. So hopefully we'll have some more better news to report at that stage. Okay, I'll go to the reports proper. The first item is Council Tax Reduction Scheme report. Basically, this is a report and we're seeking approval to confirm the re-adoption of Council Tax Reductions National Scheme for 21-22. There are two sets of regulations governing the scheme, one of which is established a single national framework scheme, which would be imposed on any council that failed to adopt its own scheme. And the second, which is one we use, is a set which sets out the national requirements for each building authority had to satisfy, and also enable additional areas of local discretion that authorities to implement. Welsh Government authorities have to give the report to Welsh Government by the 31st of January each year to adopt a scheme exercising any kind of discretion permitted under the prescribed requirement regulations. This requires a decision by full council, and it will be going to full council hopefully tonight. If the authority fails to adopt a council tax reduction scheme by that date, the default scheme would apply. So what I'm proposing is that the Cabinet recommends to Council the adoption of the discretionary allowed in previous years for the year 21-22, and these are outlined in the body of the report. So I'm going to simply move the recommendations that the Council Tax Reduction Scheme and prescribed requirements, Wales Regulations, SI 2013-3029, the prescribed requirements regulations, and the Council Tax Reduction Scheme prescribed regulations and default scheme, Wales Amendment Regulations 2014, SI 2014/66 be adopted. It's a mouthful. That any amendments to the regulations made by the Welsh Government are reflected in the scheme. That the national scheme is adopted with the following discretions. that the Council should continue to allow extended payments up to a maximum of 4 weeks, that the Council should continue to disregard war widow and war disablement pensions in assessing income for council tax reduction, that the Council should continue dated reductions for up to 26 weeks. And finally, number 4, that the urgency procedure set out in section 1414 of the Council's Constitution be used in respect of recommendations 1 to 3 above. And that allows us to take this report to Council later. So can I formally move the recommendations, please?
And formally second, Leader.
That agreed? Good, thank you very much. The next item is in relation to the council tax base for 21-22. The council tax base refers to the number of residential properties within the council area. Welsh Government requires the council to notify them of the council tax base for the coming financial year by the 4th of January 2021. The council tax base will be used by the authority to calculate the council tax for 21-22. In calculating the base, a range of information is taken into account, including the number of residential dwellings in the area, the number of unoccupied dwellings, and any changes that have occurred during the year. It's been assumed that the collection rate will remain at 97.1%. This is a reduction on the current financial year as it takes into account the reduced collection rate in 2019-2020 and the likely impact of COVID on the ability of some residents to meet the full cost in the coming financial year. The recommendation before you, if I can find them, is on page 2 of the report. And basically, the recommendation is one that pursuant to this report and in accordance with the local authorities' calculations of tax-based regulations, the amount calculated by the Vale Glamorgan Council as its council tax base for the year 21-22 shall be, for the whole area, 61,412. And there is a list in the recommendations for the area of town and community councils. I'm not going to say them all because they are fully within the report. So can I please move the recommendations?
Formally second, Leader.
Thank you very much. In that case, I'll go on to item 5, which is a report of the Regional Technical Statement on Aggregates, North and South Wales, the second review, and it's in the name of Cabinet Member for Legal, Regulatory and Planning. Over to you, Eddie, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, this is one of those reports that you would think wouldn't be important, but it certainly is. It's a Minerals Technical Advice Note 1 Aggregates 2004. MTAM1 requires the preparation of regional technical statements for the areas covered by both South Wales and North Wales regional aggregates working parties. Forward planning for minerals forms an intrinsic part of the local development plan process. LDPs benefit from clear technical direction. The RTS is provided on a sustainable approach to mineral development in Wales. The principal objectives of the RTS are to inform the provision of adequate reserves of aggregates in the LDPs in order to ensure sufficient provision for construction and other industries in the most sustainable manner reasonably achievable. As the RTS first review is now outdated, a second review has been prepared. And the second review provides updated projections and amends the methodology in relation to the forecast consumption of aggregate, as well as the historic pattern of supply. This means that the Vale Glamorgan has an apportionment to provide 0.67 million tonnes per annum of aggregate through the LDP review process, which is due to commence before June 2021. A new sub-regional approach towards aggregate provision has been introduced to reflect the fact that aggregates only occur in certain locations which may not reflect the areas with the highest levels of consumption. All local authorities within the designated sub-regions will be required to agree a statement of sub-regional collaboration, SSRC, to address the aggregate needs identified in the RTS. In exceptional circumstances, alternative patterns of supply can be agreed, provided there are sustainable benefits and the approach would not undermine the overall RTS strategy. If you look through the document, section 1, the background, provides the detail on sort of how the first review took place, and there were some areas that it was based on historic issues, whereas this second review is to try to introduce some future planning, particularly with the impact of housing, etc., on the region. Section 2 gives you what sort of key considerations or what we should be considering, and as I said in the executive summary, that we do need to consider our collaboration with other authorities. We do need to make sure that we can satisfy that, at the same time making sure that we can maintain our own stocks. The RTS requires a Velica mould to meet 16.8 106 million tonnes of crushed rock apportionment over 25 years. Interestingly, the Velica mould has no sand, so we can't really rely on that, but nevertheless it's detailed in the report, particularly in Appendix 1. So really, on the basis that if we didn't have this strategic collaboration report, then the Welsh Government would intervene. It's clear that we want to work with authorities, and so that's what this technical statement's about. So I'm asking the Cabinet endorse the regional technical statement, the second review attached to this report, and agree the next steps in meeting the apportionment set out in the regional technical statement through the LDP process at sub-regional level.
Okay, thank you very much, Eddie. Something we have to address. So you moving that? I'll second it. And if anybody's got any comments in relation to that? Nope. Agreed then. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the objections report for Beach Road Southern Down proposed prohibition of waiting at any time traffic regulation order. It's in the name of the report of the member for Neighbourhood Services and Transport, Peter. So over to you, please.
Thank you, Leader. I think the only thing I'd like to add is that this report is linked to earlier proposals to introduce car parking charges and indeed reduce capacity at the Rivermouth car park, and therefore it is a necessary protection to the residents. I also need to report that we received a response from the local ward member who has referred to an issue under the key issues section 2.6. He does agree that there is available parking for Frolics on the straight section of road going up towards the Blind Home and opposite the entrance of the Golden Cups campsite, but not Southern Down Farm as it says in the report. So I think there's a small wording error there, but other than that, he is in agreement with the proposals, and as indeed are most of the residents on Beach Road. And therefore I move that you note the objections to the proposals for the reasons contained in the report, and that the proposed prohibition of waiting at any time traffic regulations order be implemented. Okay. And that the objector is advised of this decision. Okay,
that is fine. I agree with you. It's something which you have to do to protect the amount of car parking was taking place in the area. I'm happy to second that. I don't know if anybody's got any comments in relation to that. No. In that case, we agree that too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, any items I have which are urgent, I do not under part 1, and neither do I have any items under part 2. So in that case, this concludes this particular cabinet session for today, and look forward to seeing you on the 21st. Okay, thank you very much, and see you soon.